Thank you. So I think it's 11. Should we get started? On my
Yep,
clock.
I'm ready whenever you guys are.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Hope you're ready. Welcome to Host Repair Activities at your library. My name is Ivan Silva. I run a makerspace in Tiburon Library in Marin County, San Francisco Bay Area. And Library Makers, the platform that's hosting this event today, is a community that connects and supports library staff that work in makerspace from all over the country in libraries big and small. Whether you're just getting started or you've been making for many years, your Library Makers invites you to ask questions, share your experience, and connect with colleagues in the platform. The site is a social platform where you can engage in discussions about making in libraries. Today, we have the pleasure of welcoming Peter Mui, founder of Fixit Clinics. It's an organization that hosts Fixit events, a lot of them in libraries, and they promote critical thinking and troubleshooting skills. Peter's a leading voice in the right to repair movement and a huge library supporter. So I'm excited to introduce Peter today and for him to share his experience with us, and that can hopefully help us start Fixit events in our makerspace and libraries. Peter, do you want to get us started? I'll
Sure.
stop sharing.
Okay, and I will start sharing. So let's see. Replace current share. Okay, and let's go for that. Okay. So thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to present to all of you. And I think what I'm going to try to convey is this idea of why we need to start holding repair events, and then to offer or have repair activities rather, and then to offer a program that allows for you to do this fairly easily. Like try to overcome any impediments to try to implement something like this on your part. So let's let me, always helps to get to your presenter view. All right. So why is it not advancing? Oh, all right. So before we start, repair is finally returning to mainstream again after maybe like a couple of generations of not being that popular. And part of what's driving that is that we are passing these right to repair laws across the United States. At this point, 5 states, California, Colorado, Minnesota, New York, Oregon, have passed right to repair laws. And that, because of the population distribution in the United States, that means that 22% of the US population at this point is covered under some sort of right to repair law. So people are starting to get this sense that repair is possible. And so let's start to think and and start to look for it. And so this is something where we can really offer something for them, going forward. Because we've had this mad and wonderful explosion of consumer electronics and technology that's been available to everybody. It's started as a trickle, and now it's a flood of all these amazing consumer devices, all sorts of wonderful doohickeys that make our lives much more easy, and modern conveniences that we love a lot. And they're complicated, and they're wonderful at the same time. I mean, we have our cloud enhanced Bluetooth rotating space heaters and our cloud enhanced Bluetooth rotating toothbrushes. But what do you do when the darn thing breaks? And most people think that their only recourse is to throw it away. Or to try and recycle it. Okay, but honestly, you and I know that that's wish cycling at this point. Because if you look at that iron that's disassembled on the right, if you think about all those tightly integrated constituent parts, I mean, at some level, it's a miracle and a wonder of modern mass manufacturing. But there's all these different plastics of different chemistries. There's the various metals. There's the electronics. For us to think somehow we're going to take all of these parts and make them back into the input stream for some other device that was as useful, as high utility as the iron that this once was, without a lot of additional resources, we're kidding ourselves. We don't know how to demanufacture things well at this point. So there's a whole climate literacy component to this work as well. Maybe that's too much to ask if you just want to do repair, but I think about it a lot in the background. And how do we convey the sense of the built environment that we have around us, and how we create a more circular and sustainable environment as we move forward. All right, so here's what Fixit Clinics look like. Typically, it's basically a big production event on a Saturday. We put shared tools out in the middle of the room. We invite the general public in with their broken stuff. And then we have volunteers, Fixit coaches walking around the room, helping people move them along. So a bunch of things here. First of all, it's not about offering free repair. It's about empowering people to learn how to repair themselves. We want to teach people how to fish as opposed to hand them a fish. The other thing I think about is we really want to encourage that everybody knows something about something. So we're trying to double down on the community part about it, that it's neighbors helping neighbors. Okay, it's not about somebody knowing, yeah, somebody knows a little more than you, but honestly, I think the main thing that we do is we offer an extra set of hands to hold the device open while you're trying to unscrew some deeply recessed screw or something like that. There's a large camaraderie and component about this, and a high social component about this. I jokingly say a Fixit Clinic is a party for Fixit coaches that the general public is invited to try and crash. And we're trying to convert everybody into being a repairer, to think repair. So I like that idea, and especially in this fractious world we have now, to reinvigorate libraries as centers for community engagement, like in this way. It's really a wonderful thing that we should be trying to do. So okay. So what I'm going to propose, but something like that, those slides I just showed before, like that's kind of daunting to try and go from 0 to 60 to hold a big crowded event, like a busy event like that. And so what I'm proposing are these much more lightweight and informal repair advice sessions, I'm calling them. It sets expectations at an appropriate level. And especially given that things are so complicated these days, we often can't fix it that day. We need a part, or we need some other specialty tool that we don't happen to have on hand. So that rather than try to think about these events as these repair events where the person comes with their item and you fix it for them, or you help them fix it, and then it's done that day, that what you're really trying to do is create multiple touch points with the item owner, with the patron, or however you want to describe them, and multiple opportunities for them to engage with the library and with their neighbors through your library on getting this repair happening. So, look, why would we do this? Look, at this point, it's apolitical, it's non-sectarian, it's non-denominational. Everybody can relate. Everybody has broken stuff. It really builds community to do this sort of programming. And we encourage conveying the skills. Okay, we're trying to teach people how to do these things as opposed to teaching them, just handing them the repair service. So think of it as an educational workshop rather than it being a repair service. We basically, that idea that we're really offering an extra set of hands to hold something in place while the person affects taking it apart or something like that. And we want to convey that empowerment. We want the person to materially participate in their own repair, because when the thing starts working again, that feeling is something we don't want to deny them. And we celebrate every repair. We ring a bell because we want everybody in the room to know that successful repairs are going on, even if their repair is not happening that well at the moment. But also to add to that joy that we've kept another thing, given another thing a new life for a little longer period of time. Okay, part of what makes this possible at this point is we have this online component now. We have Global Fixer server on Discord, which anybody can join. You can join as soon as this presentation is over. It's a private server on Discord, but it's the worst kept private server secret in the world. So you're welcome to share it with your patrons who are savvy about Discord as well. If you could start repairing later this afternoon, if someone showed up, you could say, gee, with a broken thing, or mention they had a broken thing, you could say to them, well, we haven't started our in-person programming yet, but you could get on the Discord server and you would get help from repairers from around the world. And at this point, we have 1,000 repairers from around the planet who are standing by on Discord. I shouldn't say standing by. I can't offer that quality of service just yet, but they could start on their journey through repair. They could get advice. If it's something that they need to know, like, what glue should I use to glue this back together? Or I have this broken item, here's a picture of it. What's the next step? There are people who are standing by to help them move them along right now. Okay, so what that enables then is that you can do this hybrid model. You can have Discord in person, Discord online, and in-person events happening simultaneously. And we're encouraging this. And so that also allows that if your local repairers, if you don't have a lot of local volunteers helping, or they don't have the expertise, this is a backstop for them. Okay, Discord can be available so that either they and or the people with bringing the broken items, the library patrons, can work together and get resources from around the planet to bear on their local items. So for those of you who are in more rural locations, this supports this idea that you can get global expertise on hand through the server. And it also speaks to why we're doing a bunch of this stuff, is that what's changing in the world is that everything's a combination of hardware and software these days. And certainly the software stuff is stuff that you can do remotely a lot. Like you can help somebody with something that's software based. It's one thing when something has a mechanical or part of it that you actually have to repair, but the software component of it, we need that expertise that's remote, honestly, a lot as well. So and part of this is important because Fixit Clinic's becoming more and more about digital literacy, digital equity, digital inclusion, economic justice. Because it's one thing if your phone or laptop breaks and you lose your family photos, but we're expecting people to have these devices now to actually just participate in society. So to lose access to your banking or your healthcare because your device breaks, isn't working, things start to spiral out of control real fast. So, we need to think about that as a component, and being hybrid online and in person helps with that. Okay, so here's an example of it in action. This is the San Mateo County Library System. They have a maker mobile that drives from branch to branch. And resident on the maker mobile is a Fixit Clinic repair information station. It's a dedicated laptop that connects to the hotspot that the Make Mobile has automatically. So you just open the lid. The library has a dedicated Discord account on the Global Fixer server, and any patron can just step up to this, open up, and start asking questions. So if you can find an old laptop, and there's a lot of them around, I have a whole separate program on converting Chromebooks into general purpose laptops, expired Chromebooks. And I can help you do that, if you want. This is something that you can also do that creates a dedicated station in your library, or just to ask questions about repair. Okay, what does the toolkit look like? So let me. The toolkit, basically, if you probably have, as a makerspace, you probably have tools that you use to repair the devices in your makerspace already. But this is what I'm calling my reference desk friendly starter kit. So this is what you need to basically do basic disassembly and troubleshooting. And I could imagine that what I'd love is that for every library in the country to basically have this behind the information desk, so that someone could step up and present and say, I've got this broken thing. What should I do? And you could say, well, here's the repair information station, and here's the tools. Give us your library card, and basically you can start on your process. And then for those of you in library networks, and you want to share tools maybe with another branch that does not have their own makerspace or their own tools, you can basically make a bin of traveling tools. And so what I've been doing is I've been actually using the bins that libraries use for doing their interlibrary book loan, and using the interlibrary book loan vehicle to sort of move the tools from branch to branch, depending on what's going on. So online, we've got a bunch of resources I'll share. We've got a Google Drive with all sorts of pre-made signage and graphics. In addition to that, there's a whole suite of Google Forms like these that have QR codes. The QR codes are also in that shared Google Drive to support that you can basically plug and play. You could experiment with having a single event and not have to set up any infrastructure. We've got that infrastructure ready to go. And we have the forms for check-in and bit.ly links associated with them. We've got the forms for checkout. So, you know, we want to track people's outcomes about this. You know, part of this is when you can't collect data, you don't learn a lot. So collecting data is a big part of what we're doing here as well. Okay, so the elephant in the room is a lot of people know about different models. They've probably heard about Repair Cafe. The Restart project is one that's based in the UK as well. I threw iFixit in there because iFixit is actually a commercial company that provides tools that has been very, very helpful. They're very active in the repair movement. The founder himself, you know, got frustrated with his inability to repair, and so that's why. And he supports a lot of these efforts in this. And so when you think about your model, like we all fall under the category of community repair events, but like I was alluding to earlier, there's this idea that you can either offer a free repair service, and Repair Cafe tends to do that. And you know, I've always been pretty clear that I really want to sort of empower people to learn how to do this stuff themselves. You know, convey the critical thinking and troubleshooting skills. We're just, you know, we're really kind of just using the broken item as an excuse to get them through the door. I sometimes say, you know, half jokingly that repair is actually a serendipitous side effect of our process. So here are some tips that I'll just read them out. The first one is to work as a team and be ready to triage, do less deep dive repairing, put more emphasis on offering advice for the next steps to figure it out if the item can be repaired or not. The second one is to remain cognizant of conveying critical thinking, troubleshooting, and repair skills rather than just fixing it for the person. The third is empower and engage people to do as much as they can on their own. Get them started on any disassembly on their own as appropriate. And the final one is the item doesn't have to get fixed that day. Just start or continue people on their journey with repair. So there's a sense of repair being this militant or revolutionary act. But really, I think it's just about people being curious about the world around them, and certainly the things that they rely on. So that whether you're 16 or 60, not only should you be able to repair your own device or your own stuff, but it should be easy to do it. So that we have less of this kind of mindless consumer product churn going on, because we all know at this point that, you know, our consumption on the planet is non-sustainable. We're using the resources of the planet up faster than we can replenish them. So that we can have more of this going on. I mean, she encapsulates our shared future. She's self-actualized, she's inquisitive, she's empowered, she's determined, she's fearless. She's all the things that we want for ourselves. So thank you for that. I'll stop there and stop sharing and take questions.
Sorry.
You guys are all welcome to ask questions. You can either put them in the chat and we can read them out, or you can just take yourself off mute and ask directly if you like.
There's a few. We have a local iFixit shop. Do they have the means to support an event like this?
So I guess, does that mean like it's a commercial paid repair shop, or it's like in the library? I'm not sure what Joe means. Oh, the repair kit costs about $200. That stated, iFixit I think will give you some tools to get started as well. But yeah, I will have a resource list I'm going to share with Yvonne that has information about. Let me see if yeah, I should stop to do that right now. It'll take too long.
Yeah, we'll email them to you, the Google sheet that Peter has put together with all the resources.
Right. So Patty's asking, do you have a list of must-have tools? Yeah, it just depends. I mean, look, we have this whole Cambrian zoo of devices and items and the ways that they fail. So it's nice to know that you have it in your communities. That also speaks to this whole idea of lowering the expectation of just moving people along in their journey through repair, that you won't have that part or the tool, specific tool that day. I mean, so I've heard this said, with the right tool, any job is easy. And I would say that that's probably true. So getting the right tool probably helps a lot. And taking the time to do that will help. So yeah, I'm not going to, Yvonne, you pick some others to throw at me. They're coming in fast and furious now.
Yeah. So you left it. Where do you tend to find community volunteers?
Yeah. So, you've got probably a local Lions Club or a local, or some, or there's a local church that has an annual yard sale or whatever. And there's some church volunteer who's in the basement fixing up all the donations for the church sale or something. Those people exist in your community. And, I spoke to this idea of repair having skipped a couple of generations. They're typically retirees who have worked at some local engineering or tech company or had some job that involved repair, and they're your initial coaches. That stated, with the Discord server, I think that a lot of high schoolers and middle schoolers are possible good repairers, and they're savvy with Discord. And that's the generation I think we need to empower about this stuff. And they're also highly motivated to fix this stuff because they don't have a lot of money. So they in my dream of dreams, personally, I would love for some 7th grader to start a business in your library, fixing his friends' smartphones, his or hers. I should be gender neutral about that.
And actually, Elisa's question might be a good segue to that. Like, what liability does the library assume if things are broken at the library?
Right. So I have a waiver form. The waiver form's included in the kit. And basically, this is all part of lowering these expectations, and also about this idea of neighbors helping neighbors, right? So nobody wants to be a bad sport. So that's the problem if you try to basically come and say, oh, we bring in all these experts, because things are complicated these days, and we're operating with no net. There's no access to circuit boards or schematics or service manuals or diagrams. The manufacturers don't give us any help. So that's why this conveyance of critical thinking and troubleshooting skills. And so in the wording and description of the event, think about how you're really, that's another reason not to emphasize the free repair service component of these programming. That because then it sets expectations somehow that you're going to miraculously fix stuff for them. And honestly, a lot of stuff is not that easy to fix. So, so setting expectations right is an important thing going forward. And so my standard admonition, and I'll say this and stop, is that I say to people who show up, I say, so you understand, anything we do here could make it worse. And if they laugh, I know they're the right kind of person. And if they're not, I say, you know what, maybe you should go get professional repair for this.
Yeah, and this is kind of a different variation. Christine had this question. Our makerspace techs don't have the skills for this. Where would the network to find folks that would likely be willing to host an event in person?
Right. So in person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I want to say, does the library have makerspace volunteers? I mean, they would be the first people that tech oriented or skilled people in the community who would be willing to come in and start. We do have a global form that I can give you access to, so that you don't have to do that, right? But basically, if you said, hey, I'm in some little town and I'd like to start this, I can put your town up on that global form, and then you can point people to it, then put up some advertising in your library. And we've got some stuff about that. Say, hey, we're thinking about starting Fixit Clinics. Would you like to be part of it? Would you, volunteer here? So it's a chance to have some sort of ongoing thing that's hoovering up people who might be interested.
Yeah, and Kate is actually sharing her experience here. We host fix-ins monthly and generally pick a focal item for each event, which allow us to target the repair materials and tools needed, plus recruit target experts, volunteer and paid internships. So she found a model that kind of works for her. And I would say my model, based on your feedback, is similar to that also.
Yeah. So although I find that typically when you try to do something verticalized to a specific type of item, that doesn't match up well with what people actually have that's broken. So I
Mhm.
try to be a little more like Fixit Clinic, like improv. You never know what the general public's going to present you with. Our
Yeah.
one admonition is, standard carry in only, no oversized items. That
All right.
stated, you'd be amazed at what people consider to be a carry in only item. People are moving a dishwasher in on a hand truck, and like we have no way to hook it up. We have no way to recreate the problem. But that speaks to sort of the desperation, or that people really, they want, and this is someone who wants to fix themselves. They just need a little help.
Yeah, and Marjorie had that question, what is the limit of the kind of item that can be repaired? And she had an example of a microwave. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
so some of us are. So I can fully understand why you might shy away from a microwave, because there are opportunities in there. There's a high voltage component, but the Boulder You Fix It group has actually published a whole document. They actually had they've created a specialty area on microwaves, and once you've been inside a few of them, there's only 3 major failure modes, and 2 of them are very inexpensive. They're easy to fix, and then the third one is the microwave inverter goes out, and that's about 30 or 40 bucks. But if you know what you're doing, and that's the challenge, that if you know what you're doing, that and you can stay away from the high voltage area, and not energize the microwave, then it's like a lot of other. There are a lot of other things, that space heaters. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other things that are, there's inherent risk in anything you do in life. Let's put it that way.
yeah. And Jessa shared the toolkit, and so we'll compile whatever resource you put on the chat with Peter's, and then we'll share all those for everyone in case you missed it. But also, Kristen had another question. Do you have a list of house rules for both patrons and expert volunteers?
I don't, I don't. I mean, I guess I've been relying on the goodwill of people. So I tried not to have that. I tried to establish underlying conditions that don't necessitate that, I guess. I mean, I do have the liability waiver, because that we live in such a highly litigious society. You just have to. But there's also, when people register, there is an online one as well. So there's multiple places where you try to establish underlying conditions that for success in basically saying, listen, we're just people trying to help other people out, neighbors helping out other neighbors, and everyone's just doing the best they can.
Emily had a question about waiver, which you just mentioned, and Jessa shared her current registration form, and they're partnering with the Department of Public Works and offering electronics and textile recycling. I also offer electronics recycling when I do my event, so those are good tips. Peter, as far as working with the
Wait,
library,
let's stop on that for a second. So I
okay,
don't. I actually shy away from offering e-waste recycling at my events,
sorry.
because so this is me. I want people to meditate on their consumption, and we didn't cover it in this, but other program I have is basically teaching engineers and designers at colleges and universities how to design for durability, maintainability, serviceability, repairability going forward. But I want to change. I'm kind of going for a wholesale change in the consumer mindset vis-a-vis their consumption, and thinking about like the planet's at stake here, and maybe I should get off my high horse with that. But that this consumer trifle that they bought for maybe hundreds of dollars, that at this point they are willing to just go to e-waste because it can't be fixed. I think we need to think about making consumers more demanding and holding the feet to fire to people who produce these items to say, this is not acceptable, this is not okay, and we need to think about how to buy things that are more durable than that. All right, so now you can ask your question. I'll shut up.
Well, I was going to ask about, but there's someone else on the chat. I'm going to ask their question. Hold on. Um, uh, where was it? I'll know that our events are still open to fix anything. You also have Focus to provide a peer-to-peer professional development training. Oh my God, hold on. I'm trying to, it's moving as I read. Hold on. Ah,
Yeah, and I just tried to
You would
paste my
accept it by
resource list into
trying to read the comment as it gets updated.
no, sorry.
I was
You want to just ask it? Yeah.
Yeah, while we do have that focal event for our fix-in, it is not limited to those items at all. That is just a target to give people an idea of items they wouldn't usually think to bring to like a repair cafe or fix-in. So we pick, things that are not kind of the usual to expand their concept of what can be repaired. But we still take whatever comes in the door. So we just tend to have a higher percentage. And right now it's looking only about 25% of the items we might fix that day or that come in the door that day that we're troubleshooting are going to be our focal item. So it's not limited entirely to that. But the other thing I was noting that the other benefit of having some kind of focal area, also just for like recruitment, right? If it's much easier to ask, hey, are you comfortable coming in to share your skill set in fixing, sewing machines and mending versus are you happy to take anything that comes in the door, right? Uh, just from a volunteer management standpoint. But we noticed our fixers in particular have just amazing skill sets and they're all different, right? Most of them have their go-to, right? One's a small engine person, one's electronics repair person, one's our soldering person, what have you. And so recently, just in the last 3 months, we started using that focal point to provide kind of a quick 20-30 minute peer-to-peer professional development training on that repair skill or like on that item, predominantly for our fixers themselves. And they've really found that to be very useful. So they're sharing their own skills, which they don't necessarily get to do in that larger clinic because they're working on so many different items. So it helps build community and build that skill set. And we do open up those kind of mini trainings, right? They're not very formal to the public as well. So we just
okay, so I
last week.
right. And so I want all of my Fixit coaches to cross-train and skill share. And so in an actual Fixit Clinic event, I really tell them to act like they're doctors on grand rounds in the hospital. Walk around lightly, touch each item lightly, walk around from item to item, and yeah, deep dive if they see particular interest in that. But I really want them all to be generalists in the spirit of conveying critical thinking and troubleshooting skills. I want all my electronics and soldering Fixit coaches to know how to wind a bobbin and thread a needle, and I want all of my fabric and sewing coaches to know how to solder. And I think they come for that because they're learning at the events at the same time they're helping others. So they're building out their skills. So I've kind of combined the two in a single type of activity. And then also because of the global fixture server, they can go there and then they've got resource to people all around the planet. So then they can say, I used this glue on this item last week, but I wasn't sure that was the right glue to use. And people online will say, oh yeah, you should have used this other glue instead, but that'll hold pretty well for the moment.
Yeah, and Cindy shared that's sometimes you can bring an item just to be donated also to someone else. And I think from my experience also, even a broken item I can use for an event, a take apart event for kids to learn also. So things can,
Yeah.
yeah.
So two things. So I started holding those take it a parties as well, but I found often the item was fixable. So the problem with take it a parties for kids is that sometimes there's a tendency to destructively dismantle it, as opposed to if you had carefully taken it apart, we could actually fix this and put this back in service. The other thing is I find that people do bring things to donate, but they're not working. And this is the broader challenge beyond the scope of this event, which is that, look, the provenance of the item and its value plummets the moment the person who owned it took it out of service and either moved it to the garage or moved it to the curb or brings it to your event. Once again, I'm concerned it's wish cycling. They're hoping to sort of foist this off on somebody else so that their conscience feels better about their consumption. And I'm militant. I know I'm really trying to go for this wholesale change in the mindset of ourselves, vis-a-vis our consumption and what it's doing to the planet.
Peter, we're gone over a little bit, but just maybe to wrap up, like how has it been working with libraries, and how is that process to start Fixit events at the libraries? Has it been easy to work with us, or?
Yeah. No, I mean, especially as it moves mainstream. I mean, I'm fielding requests all the time from libraries around the country saying we'd like to start these events. What's involved? So, you know, and if you look at the resource, one of the resources I'll show you is the thing that the Fixit coaches. It's a list that we provide, a truncated list of all the different events going on around the country that use the form, and you'll see what items are being registered at all the libraries that are active right now, and what items are coming into their events. So it gives them a heads up too. It gives them an idea of who's coming, what they're bringing, helps the Fixit coaches a lot. They love to see this ahead of time because they kind of know, oh, that's interesting. I'll come because I want to see what that's like. So,
And they can bring the specific tool if they have it. Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Cool. Thank you. And we'll put together all these resources and send it to you in an email, so you can have access to it, so you don't have to look around it. And then we just posted a survey in the chat. If you can do that, we would really appreciate it. So I want to thank you for attending the host repair activity at your library, taking time from your library duties to come and attend. We'd love to hear your feedback, so do that survey. And we hope to see you at Library Makers for more discussions. It's a great place to share and get answers to questions. It's our little Discord, so to speak, for everything related to making and makerspaces in libraries. And thank you for attending the presentation.
And Ivan, can I have the last word here?
Absolutely, please.
So guys, you are my core demographic, okay? I would love for you to start holding these events. So you guys get favored nation status. So I put my email in the chat, save the chat before Ivan closes it out, so that, and actually I should do that myself, so that you have access to that. But really feel free to reach out to me, and I'll try to do what I can to help you make this possible if you want to try to do this at your library.
Yeah, and if you're in the Bay Area, you can corner Peter and ask him questions.
Yeah, Ivan, will you be at Pseudo Room later tonight?
Yes, I will see you later tonight and corner
All right,
you.
I'm having trouble saving the chat, so if you can do me a favor and save the chat and
I'll
send it to
save
me,
it and share it with everyone. Thank you again, guys. I appreciate
okay.
it.
Hey.
Thanks.